I'm Valerie Vacante, the Director of Strategy at LiveArea, and my role is really uncovering new trends, product innovations, and helping companies find out what's next and create kind of the future. And I'm joined here by Cathy.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me, Val. I'm Cathy Saidiner. I work at Riot Games, and I look after all of our channels, basically any way that we're connecting with players around the globe out of Los Angeles. Happy to be here.
Thanks. And what we'll do is we're actually going to go through a number of slides, sort of 3 key areas, and then we'll try and leave room at the end. So then that way we can kind of have a Q&A. You guys feel free to put some questions and answers in the message bar there, and we'll try and address them. And I think the PSFK folks have kindly given us a little bit of time at the end there as well. So all that being said, naturally this session is all about gaming, gamifying the world around us. And so why not kick it off here? That is Nolan Bushnell. He's the godfather of video games. And, this quote here, it's all about kind of creativity being the first driver that everything starts with. And so without it, nothing else can take place. And I think it's really important, no matter what your role is, if it's a designer, if it's a business analyst, if it's engineering, we're all creative in our own ways. So just wanted to start off on that note. And numbers. Okay, we all love numbers, and the good news is the gaming market has just been going up and up and up. I kind of make this. And that's what it's been doing. I'm not going to go through all of these numbers, but I think, some key ones here that are really important are obviously by next year, in 2 years, there's going to be 3 billion gamers on this earth, which is phenomenal. The other one that recently came out was the 159.3 billion in revenue, and that is noted from Newzoo's, recent report in revenue. So a lot of money, a lot of growth, a lot of people wanting to game in this world. And then also there's been a huge, increase because of COVID. According to Verizon's report, 75% increase. People are indoors, they're spending time together, they're looking for more places to collaborate and play, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then just, at the bottom there, obviously a huge amount of growth in VR, AR, and interactive fitness.
One thing I would add to this, Val, these numbers are wildly impressive, right? It is a rocket. The whole space is a rocket. Lots and lots of growth. But the one thing I would just have people think about is this represents a really diverse group of products and people. There's a lot of different genres of gaming, a lot of different people playing games and engaging with games in their own unique ways. Unique things around the globe, right? I think this is probably mostly a US-oriented audience that we have here, but it's truly a global phenomenon, and we just don't see any end in sight. So it's all very exciting.
No, that's a great point, and that brings us to our kind of first chapter here. Power Up Play. And Cathy and I had a couple of really great conversations as we were preparing for this discussion, and really that idea of gaming, equals progression. And did you want to say something, Cathy?
Oh, sure. Yeah. This idea of progression is really what's at the heart of gaming. And it's just like a human truth in a way. It's a human motivator. And I think that's because progression is at the heart of gaming. It's one of the reasons people are so engaged with it. But yeah, we've got a lot of examples here that we can talk about, and we're certainly interested in any questions people have in the chat as well.
Well, and one of the things we wanted to have here is, my guess, I could be wrong on some of this, so please let me know, but that most of us, if not all of us, grew up in some kind of console war, gaming console war. So, when console gaming first started out and was originally brought in the home, you had Atari versus Intellivision. Later on, you had the NES versus Sega Genesis, right? And then, later on, you had, PlayStation and Xbox. So we really wanted to, the point is all of us, have grown up in and around gaming. So there's no surprise, as Cathy talked about some of these examples we're going to share, that we're seeing gaming play out in every aspect of our lives.
Yeah, definitely the idea of progression, right? And how that informs product strategy, marketing strategy, consumer experience. It's just really prevalent across a lot of industries, and I'm sure most of you here, in this session can instantly think of things in your own lives and your own businesses where you're considering the concept of adding progression or rewards in a way that gets people engaged and interested. So yeah, there's a number of examples that we can talk about. Val, where did you want to start?
Yeah, well, let's see. Okay, cool. So I'll jump in with one that I think most people may not know about. It's been around for a little bit, but it's the Humana 365 app. And what they do, it's actually, Humana is for health insurance. And what they do is it's all about rewards, getting your points, leveling up, and through fitness. So you actually get rewarded if you've had your checkup, if you've gone to the dentist or you've had your physical exam, right? And you're also rewarded because it's, it is an app-based experience. It actually, I think on the clip here, you might see, I think like 1,000 steps equals $1, right? So you're financially rewarded for your physical activity, but you also kind of level up or power up by, self-care and taking care of yourself. And so I think we're going to see adoption more in that kind of health space. And I didn't know.
Yeah, it's super prevalent, right? In that space. I think any category or area where there's a desire to, influence behavior, right? And so in healthcare and fitness, these are areas where, the right kind of behaviors lead to healthier outcomes. And so a lot of people have skin in the game for that to happen, including insurers, including, the medical profession. And then there's a whole bunch of industries that have sprung up around it. Probably a good number of people wear a Fitbit, on their wrist. I just got one for my 14-year-old son, and he's totally into it, and he wants to go running every day. So it is these principles in action.
Well, and it's interesting you say that too. One of the things in our conversations, it's the same thing with my son before COVID. That's what and he's now in middle school, but he was in 5th grade, and that's what they would do on the playground is they would even compete, like, hey, I got this many steps, or I got this many steps. And so it was just awesome to see kids gamify fitness. And
and so you can easily see why that's super appealing to an insurance provider, right? Because they're all about, wanting to manage their costs, and getting at the right behaviors can help them do that. For sure. I think, I've seen it extending into financial services as well. There's a lot, new services that you can sign up for. Mint springs to mind, right? That help you save. And again, it's about, that progression and rewards for the right kind of behaviors or outcomes that they're looking to mold. So yeah, that's those are big areas. Another space, and I think we can both relate on this as well, like, since it seems we both have middle school kids, is is education.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think, this idea of gamification and progression is like really taking over education in so many ways, especially with remote learning due to COVID. There's just a lot of online type tutorials that you can get into, and it's not about middle school. Adults learn the same way, so we can all do that. But what's great about it, and I think it's really something to take note of, is it allows this mass personalization of the experience. So, if you're an 8th grade math teacher, you may have kids that are at varying levels or have different learning styles, different aptitudes for the topic. And what these gamification systems do is it allows each of those individuals to progress at their own rate, what works best for them. So that's where I think it really makes a positive impact in kind of helping everybody move forward into mastery at their own pace.
Well, I agree too. And that idea of like having for the teacher to have a dashboard, right? Or a leaderboard, as we do in gaming, right? So having that leaderboard where she can see, he can see who's progressing, who needs that support. But it's interesting too, thinking about, you talked about not just school age children or college age children, but, ongoing education. There is a company called Dynepic, and one of the things they do is they actually have a platform called Motar, and it uses VR and AR training for the Air Force. And so it connects all these technologies, excuse me, and it creates a platform by which they can train and kind of see where people are progressing, how they're going on to the next module. Mm-hmm. And actually kind of going back to the sort of connected fitness health aspect, a couple of the examples we have in here at the top, what's interesting about this one, this is Aglet. And I'm not sure if you guys have heard of Aglet, but it's basically an app-based experience. And you think of it as Pokemon Go for sneakerheads, basically. So you're rewarded, similarly, you're rewarded for your steps that you get. And then on the screen there, it might be a little small, but basically you earn digital currency and digital kicks, basically, of the most rarest kicks that are out there. Right now it is digital. I believe kind of longer term, they're wanting to have that kind of connection of digital physical product, but that's something, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but in terms of, where is the boundary of the store? And the store is no longer, I think as most of us know, the store is not just that sort of brick and mortar. The store is everywhere, and how gaming and play create that fun, and that loyalty, right? So like, Cathy, you were talking about kind of rewards and loyalty and progression, and it's really kind of piecing all those bits together to create an awesome experience that gets people, either purchasing online. We're seeing a huge increase of buy online, pick up in store, having it delivered in those areas.
Yeah. I see Constant, you have a question in the chat. So yeah, let's talk about that for a minute, because yes, the retail space is different. It's not all brick and mortar, obviously, and there are ways to, get the principles of progression into whatever experience. And I think it depends so much on what your goal is. Like, certainly at Riot, we don't think about things as, well, we're trying to get people to spend money. It's more about engagement and improving their experience, right? So that they spend more time in the ways that they want to. And typically that does result in, a good percentage of people spending money. But that's not always the case, right? You don't have to spend money in our games to have a great time there and play them and hang out with your friends and whatnot. So just in terms of like what to think about, regardless of your retail space or environment, you know, enhancing the experience of the person who you want to have a relationship with, right? So I think some of the reward programs of the past, you know, the airline frequent flyer miles always come to mind for everybody as kind of ground zero for reward programs. You know, they could have just given discounts, right? They could have just said, hey, fly our airline a lot, and we're going to, you know, give you points or rewards that just come in the form of discount or monetary value, direct monetary value. But most of them didn't do that, you know, at least not exclusively. They really thought about what is it our customers want out of the experience. And, you know, by God, it's an upgrade, right? We all want an upgrade. So, you know, they really like honed in on the things that would get people to have these experiences that, you know, maybe they couldn't just buy with money. So regardless of your retail space or the environment or space that you're in, like that's one way to think about it. Yeah, rewards for reviews, social media shares, new product trials, right? And we see people as the reward mechanism, you know, upgrading to like a premium status in some way, right? Like LinkedIn is another example that I find really interesting. I think they've done a really interesting job of building progression into their product and business model in a way that's a win-win for both them and the user, right? So you go into LinkedIn and you get all these nudges about your profile. Hey, don't you want to enhance your profile? Don't you want to make it as good as the next person's or better than the next person's? And they give you some hints on how to do that. And, you know, it goes on. And then ultimately, you know, you can upgrade to the, I forgot what it's called, but I'm a member, right? You pay, where you actually pay a certain amount to then have
Premium, I think.
Yes, the premium, right? Yeah. And so I could see that.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things actually we did include here is we're actually very excited to talk about because is our latest product. We actually, it was so early, Cathy, the last time we were at PSFK. It was super early and a very early prototype, but in the center there is our latest product, LiveArea Scan and Go. And so we actually have a patent pending technology. And so when we talk about, you know, enhancing the store or buying experience, what we did is, you know, when you think about autonomous checkout, for example, you know, we've heard where analysts have said it's about roughly $1 million per store location to fit out these spaces with sensors, you know, with cameras. Some of them use biometric data. So as a consumer, people are really concerned. And as a retailer, it's a huge investment to make. And then sort of secondly, you know, we've seen with COVID, you know, a lot of people are apped out, as we were saying. So we were kind of talking about, I don't know if you guys remember, but there's an app for that. That whole campaign was actually, I think, 11 years ago, right? And so consumers have moved on. They don't all want an app on their phone for every single store, you know, that they go to. I mean, I don't. I have probably a handful of apps that I use. I mean, I have tons on my phone, but I probably have a handful of them and quite a few gaming ones actually on my phone. But all that being said, what we wanted to do with LiveArea Scan and Go is like, hey, how can we make a quick, easy way for retailers to have a contactless shopping experience? Because I don't know if everybody here has seen, but like contactless shopping, it increased, talking about numbers again, but it's increased 150% since 2019, right? So there's a huge the numbers are going up. Consumers want contactless experiences. You know, and part of it is people become used to, they kind of want that touchless experience. And so what we did at LiveArea is we said, hey, let's find a way, and this is what our patent pending tech is basically we sync into an existing retailer's website. So if you're an existing retailer and I already have a profile with you, I'm already signed up for your loyalty program, and you know that retailer enables LiveArea Scan and Go, and they they can completely brand it as their own. Then your customers can go through and scan the items they want, buy them, and then as a retailer, you have the opportunity to reward consumers as you see fit. So maybe if they use the scan and go opportunity, then you reward them more, right? Because it is connected to that loyalty program. That's obviously saving staff cost and some of those things. So why not give them a little boost, right? And then we've also created a way to have that recommendation engine, as well. So if we can completely customize it, if you like this, you get that. But we've done it where it's completely web-based. Again, just think of it as plugs into the website, and we can actually have a beta up and running in weeks. And so we've been really excited. We actually, formally announced it this week, and we have it across a couple of the major platforms. So any of you guys, if you want to know more, let me know. But I did want to make sure to answer Constance's question about the store. And then the other thing there, Marcus, you had absolutely talked about giving those rewards for social and that type of thing. And that's something, if retailers had LiveArea Scan and Go, they kind of can control what those rewards are as customers use the product. So cool. And then I didn't know, Cathy, was there anything you wanted to add about that sort of rewards with Twitch or anything like that?
Well, Twitch actually, it does kind of come to mind, it's not a retailer, right, in a way that you would normally think about it. But as I look at Constant and Marcus's comments, it does come to mind the way the system works, because it gamifies the experience both for the creators, right, the streamers that are essentially Twitch's product or content, but also there's progression for viewers, right? So they very cleverly, set up this system where the streamers, they get rewards for streaming and they level up in their ability to be effective streamers. And they also enable those streamers to reward their audiences for watching and engaging. And so it creates this nice symbiotic effect, which is similar to my comment in the chat here about think about your employees as well as your customers, and how that can be a total experience where it's a win for everybody, right?
Completely. It has to be has to make business sense, whether it's for the business, whatever that business is, right? And it has to be an awesome experience for the customer, whoever that is, customer, player, depending on who that is.
Right. Cool.
And then I guess, Cathy, is there anything else you wanted to add, or are you ready to jump into the next section?
No, I don't have anything. Nothing else on this point.
All right, here we go. Chapter 2, you guys. So welcome to the metaverse. And really in this section, we're going to be talking about, how people are hanging out in the digital world, social gaming, and community. And so this example here, for any of you guys who grew up in sort of the 80s, this was a big deal, right? The malls, where you hung out, where your community was, right? Where you did all of your socializing, because this is well before social media, it was at the mall, right? You're getting your slushy, you're seeing your friends, you're giving people hassle, as you can see there. And even you went there for entertainment, right? So there was like, you went to the cinema at the mall. You, in the top here, we have Tiffany. And for all of you who know the song, I Think We're Alone Now, it will probably be in your head for the rest of the day. But anyway, Tiffany, you know, she did these tours all around the country and in the world mainly, but she would go to malls because that's where kids were at. They were hanging out at the mall. And you can see there, obviously, you know, kids playing in arcades as well. And so, you know, when we sort of talk about the metaverse today and talk about where people are hanging out today, you know, people are hanging out in all of these wonderful places and spaces in the digital world. If, you know, in terms of COVID, if anything, it's accelerated how we connect and how we can play, you know, learn, explore all of these wonderful worlds. You know, some people ask about, you know, a metaverse, and a lot of references are obviously to Ready Player One, where you're creating your own avatar, you're jumping in the game, you know, you're your own person, you're connecting with your friends, you're buying, you know, you're buying things, you're getting your digital skins. And that's really, you know, that's not the year 2045. As Ernie Klein envisioned, it's a lot of that's happening now. And so, you know, some of the big ones, I think a lot of us have heard about, but definitely wanted to point out, because again, the numbers are through the roof on a lot of these, but you know, Travis Scott. So that was a big event in Fortnite, that what Fortnite, as well as Travis Scott and a lot of other companies involved, did a brilliant job of, was teeing up this really amazing immersive event in the game. You had to meet up at a certain time. At least at our house, we were calling calling the friends, meeting up. Hey, are you gonna be at the event? And watched it live and everything. But as I was saying with other companies, you can see there, you know, Hasbro's Nerf product. So they created a customized, you know, Nerf AR blaster, you know, that launched right, you know, when the event did. Jazzwares, who does a lot of action figures and that sort of thing, they had action figures, you know, that launched during the event as well. So, you know, when you think about a physical product push, you know, you're having this big event happening in the digital space. People are seeing it, experience. Travis Scott, you know, people who may not have been aware of his music, you know, are super fans now, right? They're buying all the merch and all of the skins and everything else that go with it. And interestingly, I mean, that's a brilliant example, because it was so well orchestrated with so many different pieces. But Fortnite's actual event, the Galactus event and Marvel event, actually superseded in numbers as well. So so Epic, you know, obviously are keeping Epic in how they're building out these experiences. And you know, when we look at other sort of other play spaces as well, you know, Roblox, they continue. I mean, they continue to just smash it in numbers. I think there was like 33 million with Lil Nas event that they had last month, actually, last month. And so on the far right there, but it was just, Roblox continued to do a brilliant job of having, you know, this was a live event, and they actually had it on a couple of times throughout where players could visit. But also what Roblox continue to do is, like we talk about Ready Player One, when the film came out, you know, they had a big event around Ready Player One. Well, now Ready Player Two, the book launched last month, and there was a Q&A with Ernie Klein, the author of the book. And so, you know, we're not just going in the game and playing the game. We're going there to learn. We're going there to get insights. We're going in there to get that closeness and sneak peek.
Yeah, you know, the one thing about this is thinking about the open border nature, right, of the term metaverse, and just going back to the mall example, right? If you're a teenager in a mall back in 1984, it's totally fine to wear your Gap T-shirt in the Adidas sneaker store, right? They don't put up a wall and say, no, you can't play in our space unless you're only, buying our products. I think that has to apply, and people want it to apply in the virtual world too, right? They want to be able to mash up their experiences in new ways, in ways that are exciting for them personally, right? That reflect their own breadth of interests. So I think, we're starting to see a lot of this with some of these things you talked about, Val, and I think, we're just going to keep seeing more and more of it. And from a retail perspective, right? If you're a brick and mortar retailer today, how do you think about that? How do you think about the concept of open borders and creating an in-store experience? It doesn't have to just be brick and mortar, but online retail as well. How do you create an experience that allows people to cross genres in ways that are relevant, of course, to what you're doing, but allow them to bring that open border mentality into your environment? And that could be a very winning formula.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that what's been interesting is, we're seeing these different kind of partnerships going, in game and around the game and all of that. But one example that I wanted to point out was really, again, going back to Roblox for a moment. And with their physical product, they've done a great job. And Jazzwares is the toy company. I was trying to get one, but I can't reach it. But anyway, but they've done a great job in terms of connecting that physical and digital experience. So if I buy my particular, figure, my physical figure in store, and I go in the game and I enter my code, I have that skin. So I'm building my own sort of. I've obviously bought that figure in the physical store because it's interesting to me, but I can actually become that figure, or tailor, have those different skins and everything, and bringing it all the way back, to the physical product. So when you want to talk about ROI, yes, we can track it back to engagement. Yes, we can track it back to physical sales. We can see how often was that digital skin used, after they purchased it. So some really compelling metrics there.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, Cathy, actually, I would love to hear your perspective. I think everybody else would too, is at Riot, you guys have been all about community, and a company really built around community in so many aspects. So can you share a little bit about, Riot's philosophy and how you guys are working?
Yeah, well, I think the founders at Riot really understood, like in their souls, that community is at the heart of what our original game represented. And so they really infused that philosophy. The whole company really is built up around that philosophy of serving your core community, hyper serving your core community really well. And if you do that really well and you're really making an experience that they love, like, you almost can't help but be successful, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's been a real focus on that, and we really have continued that to this day. It is really in our DNA. We think about it as a two-way street, right? Whether it's in product development, whether it's in marketing, any aspect of bringing our games to players around the world, it's a two-way street. We bring players, streamers, people around the gaming space and ecosystem, other partners, all the way up into our product development process. They have a point of view, they give us insight, we try to build the games that they want to play, and then we continue that throughout the life cycle of our game. So, we keep games in live service in perpetuity, and our players and community are completely part of that. We have, many, many instances of like actually changing a game, modifying a game, going to considerable, expense to do that based on player input and what we hear from them. So it's another way to think about your product if you think about it as a service, and really including your community in what you're crafting.
That's great. And also too, when you talk about community, I mean, you guys, it's not, it's not just the digital world, right? I mean, you have a huge esports community.
Yes, that's a great example, because you can think about esports really as springing out of community. I mean, really, that's what it's traced back to. It's a huge industry now, of its own right, and we've got this huge global, fandom around it, which is really fun and awesome. But it really did start with that. It was, hey, this community wants to celebrate. They want to celebrate with each other, and there was an early behavior around our League of Legends game where people would get together, on their own and, compete with each other. And so because people at Riot were very much in touch with the community, they recognized this behavior early, right? Players were like, hey, Riot, we're doing this weekend. This is really cool. You should come check it out. And so it became clear to people early on, like, hey, wait a minute, this is something players want. This is something the player community wants. Maybe we should invest here, and it'll make their experience that much better, expand the community. And so here we are today, and now like esports is, sports. But yes, it's physical. It's physical. We have our annual League of Legends Worlds that culminates in October every year, and the audiences are just growing and growing every year. It's amazing. I went to the one in Paris last year before the COVID lockdown for the first time. I went live, and it was incredible experience. Really amazing to see the passion of the community and how much that's grown.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I bet that was incredible to see the players in Paris for sure. Personally, being in Austin, with South by Southwest Gaming, that's one thing we obviously, miss this year. But and then in years past, there's a phenomenal event down in Brazil called Game XP. It actually has the world's largest esports screen, but they do a phenomenal job of getting players from all around the world down there. So we'll see how that space evolves, in the coming year or so, year. We'll see how that goes. And then just I guess one other thing to talk about before we jump to the next section here, and that's Animal Crossing and Among Us, right? So Animal Crossing kind of launched right when the pandemic kind of hit. And if you read about it, they've done a great job in terms of skins, and having that customization with different fashion brands teaming up with them. There's even a museum, it's an aquatic museum anyway, has recently teamed up with them because, not all places were able to go back to our museum. So they're bringing the museum to the digital world so you can explore it in the look, feel, and with your Animal Crossing friends and characters. And then obviously Among Us, another social mobile game that's just been getting people playing together. I mean, people are seeking out that connection. And so I am thankful that gaming has brought everybody together in a positive light, whether it be learning, connecting, being entertained, all those wonderful things.
Yeah. And that's another great service, I think, that people have recognized over the last year, right, with COVID, is how much of a service this is providing with keeping people connected. Back to my mom, typical momness, referencing my son again, but we lived in London for a number of years, and he has friends from those days, and he plays with his friends in Madrid, he plays with his friends in Dubai, so it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see people being able to connect globally beyond borders and have fun together.
completely agree. And okay, so kind of rounding it out, our last chapter, chapter 3 here, the trilogy, Cathy. So it felt appropriate because this is called Gaming is the New Hollywood, this section. You know, and for the folks at the event, you know, we really think more entertainment, but Hollywood sounds a little more razzle dazzle. So there we go. And so, you know, before we jump into all of our examples, one of the things that Cathy and I were talking about, you know, is like that film product placements from back in the day that were so critical to brands. It's like, you know, oh, we have to be in this movie, or the, you know, there's going to be this big film and they have to drink that particular drink or wear that suit, or et cetera, et cetera. Well, now we're seeing that through those gaming collaborations and partnerships. So let's see here. We're gonna, okay, so Cathy's gonna tell you guys about all the cool stuff they're doing from a partnership perspective.
Well, we're doing a lot more cool stuff than I can even talk about or even cover in this session. So, you know, there's so much culture and cultural impact in the gaming space. And, you know, we're really trying to give our audiences what they want, and, you know, designing carefully to make this whole experience better for them, you know, in every way possible. And, you know, people who play games aren't one-dimensional. They're multi-dimensional people, just like we all are. And so they have other interests like music and fashion and, you know, whatever else. So in their entertainment world, right? And so we're really looking at ways to expand the experience that they have with us and with our IP, right? You know, our largest game is built around the League of Legends, the Runeterra IP, and it's very rich in characters and story and narrative and lore. And, you know, we have a lot of fans and players who are really into that and really enjoy it. And so we're doing a lot of expression of that. So this image you see here with the K-pop band, this is something that we started a little while back. And it really is, it's taking characters or champions, as we call them, from inside the game and marrying them up with real world artists and really blurring the line between virtual and real world. And they're performing, you know, there was a hit single that was really topping the charts in many markets in Asia. And it really was from this virtual band, you know, backed by real artists. That also went hand in hand with a partnership that we did with Louis Vuitton. Mm-hmm. Obviously, probably everyone knows who LV is. And, you know, they came to us just really interested in exploring this space with these really passionate audiences. And we did a whole capsule collection with them. And then fans could buy that in the real world. They could also buy it in game as a skin, you know, on their favorite champion. And it was just, you know, really unique at the time, kind of a first. And, you know, we're now seeing more and more of this. So it's one, you know, you can look on YouTube and type in KDA and you'll see the music videos. And the music is an area that we're definitely extending into because it's very relevant to our audience, and a core part of gaming as well is the whole audio and music experience of it.
No, that is great. Yeah. And if you guys haven't seen this collection, like Cathy says, it is awesome. The YouTube video, the music's great. The music's great. And then the collection's just awesome. And the fact that you can have that sort of, you know, digital skin experience, or physical, whatever your choice. But yeah, you guys have done a great job with this sort of collaboration and shaping out not only the fashion line digitally and physical, but also the music, and it's great because when we look at, let me see here, some of the other examples, you know, going back to the theme of you know, it's all about gaming's the new Hollywood. Let's see here. You know, we are seeing that and Cathy, you touched about a moment ago, we're seeing that IP go, I mean, everywhere, across, everywhere in new and interesting ways. Everything from kind of, hey, there's licensing to creating, new ways to shop or play. And so a couple of them I'll just kind of throw out there is Toy Kiddo, which is at the top. And Among Us. So we talked about Among Us earlier, and that just sort of like just taking off top, mobile game of last year. And Toy Kiddo is a very sort of small up and coming company. I believe the founders were affiliated with Calm, the Calm app, and a number of other sort of startups and in the sort of health space and family space. And so it's gonna be really interesting to see what they do with this IP and their product. There's not really many pictures or anything else on the internet. This image I grabbed here, I actually grabbed it today. There was one that was released, I think, a week ago, and then this one. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out. But they were wise to kind of snap up that IP with the success of Inner Slots Among Us. Let's see. So some of the, I don't know if you guys saw this one, the KFC Gaming Console. Anybody come across that over the holidays? Did you see that, Cathy?
I've heard about it. I haven't spent time with it personally, but I've heard of it, yes.
So if you want to get your gaming on and keep your chicken warm, KFC's got you covered. So it's just, and KFC, I think, is a brand, they're always trying to do interesting things, to get that attention and to be out there. And obviously they know that gaming's a big space. So coming up with this console, as you can see, that keeps your chicken warm while you're gaming, was just interesting. And one of the things here, actually, in the middle, so that is Loser Fruit, or she goes by Lufu as well. And she is a, kind of a top gamer and streamer. And actually Elf Cosmetics, so they teamed up with Lufu and they had a collaboration. And actually, if you look on YouTube, there's a really fun video, and it has Elf's sort of cosmetic guru, on the right there, as well as Lufu on the left. And Lufu, she's not an overly like glamour girl or whatever, she's just regular, just gamer person and loves her game. And so it was great to see, but what she wanted to do is she wanted tips on how can I get the look of my Fortnite character. And so they kind of walk you through. And so she was really fun in the demo, and she got like the lessons on how to put it on. And there's some cool stuff, but they had a lot of fun with it. So it was interesting to see, that collaboration in the space. And then also the, on the, sorry, there we go. on the bottom right there. So that's some of the Nike kicks that were inspired by League of Legends as well. So, I mean, you guys are just everywhere. And then just some other, obviously this past week, there was the Pokemon Go Gucci again, with the North Face and Pokemon Go. And so they put out the new skins out there. And they've actually done a great job, even from a marketing standpoint. They took over a building and made it look like it had a North Face puffer jacket in Italy. And then in the digital world, obviously having the ability to customize your skins and get the look too.
Yeah, that was cool, the North Face thing. And for many years, right, we've seen a slew of like long form content around gaming IP, whether it's feature film or cartoons. There's also lots and lots of content being made as to, you know, further that IP expression to varying degrees of success.
Yeah, I agree. And it's actually been interesting too, you know, this past year with Pac-Man had their 40th anniversary. So there's like Pac-Man everything. I think there's like Pac-Man salt and pepper shakers. There's Pac-Man shoelaces. There's like, you know, pillow. I actually have some Pac-Man pillows. Pre-COVID, my son and I won them at an arcade because we know how to team up and play Space Invader Frenzies for lots of tickets. So we use those tickets to get our Pac-Man pillows. And then another one
that's called progression, Val. That's called progression.
Look, check. Got it.
Reward.
Got it. Rewards, Cathy. And you know, another one I think that's been big for that like kind of multi-generational play has been Super Mario, right? They had the 35th anniversary. So we're seeing a lot of Super Mario experiences, the retro games, you know, being purchased. We're seeing Lego did a huge collaboration with Nintendo, having the Lego NES, which was kind of funny. And then, yeah, just a number of brands kind of capitalizing on that touch point. Hey, it's the 35th. I mean, it's a long time, 35th anniversary.
You bring up Lego. Sorry to interrupt you. Bring up Lego. That's another great brand, right? If you look at what Lego has done in terms of its franchise and really recognizing what the core of that promise is to people and just going for it. They've done some really cool things. And we see in gaming overall, you know, a signal to me. I come out of brands world, you know, and my background, I've worked with a lot of brands. And one of the signals to me about the popularity and the rise of gaming as being, you know, the center of entertainment in a way is the proliferation of brands that want to work with us, right? And not just Riot Games, but, you know, everybody in gaming. And, you know, they don't want to just do sponsorships. They want to do these deep collaborations. You mentioned Nerf. You know, we had our Louis Vuitton thing, a lot of really deep, interesting and innovative collaborations, you know, going on with brands in the space. So it's pretty cool.
Well, it is interesting too, that idea of play. You know, I know towards the end of last year, there was a licensing arrangement with Spin Master that was signed, and it said there would be things coming out, I think later this year, but it's gonna, I'm curious as a toy and gaming geek to see, you know, to see how that plays out in what space, whether it be gaming, action figures, you know, and then how that's sort of realized. So yeah, you guys are taking over the luxury world. You got like the kicks, you got the toys, you got the esports.
Well, you know what? I will circle that back to my comment on your very first slide, which is it's a very diverse, gamers are a very diverse group, right? Gone are the days of the stereotypical gamer. It's everybody, and in all walks of life, in all corners of the world.
I completely agree. And let's see. So I think we're getting close here. So I guess we'll just wrap up the takeaways, and then we can kind of open up for Q&A as long as we can. Cool. So yeah, kind of wrapping it up for those of you who joined late. I believe that the session will be available on video after. But here's kind of the key takeaways that Cathy and I put together here. So kind of chapter 1 was that idea of power up play and gaming. You know, gaming equals progression, and you know, whether that be through competition, whether that be through actions, rewards, loyalty programs. And so we had that conversation of, you know, how can we apply that to the store? And it's definitely kind of evolving those loyalty programs. Was there anything you wanted to kind of build on, Cathy, there?
No, I mean, I think we kind of really covered that. And, you know, people in the session here maybe want to take those principles, you know, think about the principles and think about how to apply them in unique ways depending on your own objectives and what you're trying to achieve.
And then like the last two topics we had there were explore the metaverse. So we had some examples of artists like Travis Scott, or writers like Ernest Cline, to toys and games that connect with those experiences in the metaverse. So as these spaces are evolving, as different technologies and ways to have those digital experiences, really kind of paying attention. Some of them we didn't really talk about, but having that digital social aspect. there's things like big screen VR, where you can actually watch films together with your friends. There's the Wave VR, where you can go to digital concerts together. And they actually did some phenomenal work around Ready Player One when that came out, and work with a number of great artists. And then we talked about that gaming.
One last point on that too. Just
yeah.
This is also where the remote working and socials environment that we've found ourselves in for the last year. The positive of that is everybody has become slightly more tech savvy. Everybody, right? We all know how to use Zoom. We all everybody has leveled up in terms of their tech savviness. And so in a lot of ways, that has been a barrier sometimes to bringing, things like sharing into a retail environment, or, participating in experiences in a retail environment has been barriers to people's technical prowess. And we've all leveled up on that dimension now. So that's a win.
I completely agree. I mean, my 88-year-old grandmother is gaming more than ever, I have to tell you. And so when we talk about, gamers of all ages, walks of life, places in the world, and leveling up, right? Because you do want to be connected. I know there have been some interesting technologies coming out where focused for kids, where kids and relatives can actually play together online. We've seen, everybody knows Zoom now for the most part, and we're seeing families just play, even if it's playing a board game together through Zoom, or some of those connected experiences there. And then I guess our last chapter was that gaming is the new Hollywood, and really the importance of those partnerships. And you guys are obviously, covering all the places, Cathy. And then I think the important part is, in looking at partnerships, and you touched on this earlier, is like, what are the partnerships that make sense for your brand? What are those partnerships that are going to extend your story? I mean, we all have a business and metrics to run. That is true. But if it's not authentic, if people aren't going to like it, it's not going to be a success. So I loved what you said earlier about, how important your community is, and getting that feedback, getting them kind of sketching out ideas. We actually do that at LiveArea. One of the latest things we've actually recently launched or kicked off is our next intelligence offering. And so that's one of the things that we do is we've been working with a couple of toy and game brands, but also some cookery brands and sort of everyday consumer products, and applying that idea of play, getting the feedback, getting people sketching, and then kind of helping our teams and partners, come up with ideas, and doing it fast, instead of it being this sort of, this big in-depth, here's a ream of paper of a report that nobody's going to read. It's like, no, we're just we're sketching together in Mural or Miro, whatever your flavor, and just trying to have those conversations with consumers and with brands.
What springs to mind for me there too, Val, this is a very simple example in the world of fashion, right? you used to shop online, imagine your favorite digital retailer, insert name here, right? Say Gap, okay? You would go to Gap online and you would look up, t-shirts or pants or, a certain category. Somebody somewhere along the line realized that people wanted to curate for a look, right? An experience.
Mm-hmm.
And instantly you started seeing that change roll through all of fashion, where now you can log on to any website and you're going to see shop this look, buy this look, and it's curated for you. And that to me is a very simple recognition that, how people wanted to experience that purchase occasion and what their end result was. And so thinking about it through that lens can lead you to big revolutionary changes, but also relatively simple things like that. I don't know what the numbers would tell us on how successful that's been. If there are any fashion retailers in the panel here, I'd be interested to hear how much business that simple twist has driven.
Yeah, it's a good point, because it does talk about, when we talk about power up play and leveling up, right? That's that personalization, that's that recommendation engine, right? And very much, I think a lot of us are familiar with Netflix as well. I mean, that's another example. And not only just like kind of the Netflix algorithm, but also kind of tying back to those shared experiences. So, hey, we could have our own movie party, and you in LA and me here in Austin, and have our movie party, right? And I'm sure we'd get some recommendations on films that we could watch. And then, so there's Cathy and myself. Please feel free to reach out, on the platform here or via LinkedIn. I would love to connect with anybody here. Would love any feedback on the session, if there's anything we didn't answer, or just to connect in general. So please reach out. Cool. And thank you, Marcus. We appreciate you taking the time to join us. for a non-gamer. Hey, we've all, look, we're all gamers.
Never too late. It's never too late, Marcus. It's never too late.
My 88-year-old grandma, she's got the mobile gaming down. You can too. Okay, well, a huge thanks to PSFK for having us. A huge thanks to you, Cathy, for kind of teaming up and collaborating on the examples and the content for the group today. And this is fun, and I'd certainly love to do it again. So thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.